It is my great pleasure to introduce ADB's 2020 Partnership Report. Since early 2020, ADB has been working intensely with our partners to help our developing member countries respond to the unprecedented challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. I am very pleased that ADB was able to provide bold, agile, innovative support since the onset of the COVID-19 crisis. Even before the WHO declared the COVID-19 outbreak a pandemic in March 2020, we began providing various forms of assistance to our developing member countries, including grants for purchasing essential medical and protective equipment. We followed this in April 2020 with a $20 billion comprehensive response package of technical assistance, grants, and loans to governments and the private sector. Our rapid response created a powerful platform for collaboration and mobilization of resources from ADB's broad network of partners. In 2020, ADB recorded its highest ever level of co-financing of $16.4 billion. Of this, $11.1 billion was for our sovereign operations and $5.3 billion was for non-sovereign operations. Co-financing for our COVID-19 response accounted for 2/3 of all co-financing, reaching $10.8 billion. We mobilized significant amount, $7.8 billion from partners through our new financing tool for quick budget support, the COVID-19 Pandemic Response Option, or CIPRO. CIPRO provided additional fast disbursing financing for our developing members as they sought to cushion the impact of the pandemic on their populations and economies. The region's recovery depends critically on access to safe and effective vaccines. To ensure this, ADB also launched a new $9 billion initiative in December 2020, the Asia Pacific Vaccine Access Facility, or APVAX, which is rapidly being rolled out across the region to provide significant financing, including from partners for governments to procure and deploy safe and effective vaccines. Looking ahead, we will need to focus our support on ensuring a green, resilient, and inclusive recovery as the pandemic recedes. This will involve support to countries so that they can pursue low-carbon development trajectories and address job losses and increased inequalities due to the pandemic, including the disproportionate impact of the crisis on women and girls. Partnerships will be central to this effort. ADB's ability to convene, facilitate collaboration, and drive momentum behind the recovery effort will be essential for the region's success. So, I'd like to thank those we have worked with over the last year during times of such daunting challenges. I look forward to continuing to work with all of our partners as we overcome the COVID-19 pandemic and achieve a prosperous, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Asia and the Pacific.
In 2019, our partnerships were strong. But were they strong enough for the challenges of 2020? The COVID-19 pandemic derailed lives and economies, forcing governments to impose measures to flatten the curve. These measures confined millions to their homes, many requiring food and social relief. As COVID-19 spread and overwhelmed healthcare systems, calls for collaboration and solidarity to combat the pandemic echoed across the world. ADB heeded this call. Our response to the COVID-19 crisis was agile, bold, and innovative. In February 2020, we worked with UNICEF and the private sector to ensure a continuous stock of medical supplies and protective equipment for frontline healthcare workers across the region. March was equally busy.
We have just launched a new $6.5 billion assistance package
as we rolled out a $6.5 billion package to help our developing members battle the pandemic. When we understood the scale of the pandemic better, we increased this to $20 billion. As we moved to respond to the crisis, so did our partners. Contributions began pouring into our first technical assistance specifically designed for COVID-19 response. Co-financing for 2020 reached a record high $16.4 billion. 66% went to projects that enabled member countries to cope with the devastating impact of the pandemic. Our financing partnerships focused on the poor and most vulnerable. We helped Indonesia expand its social assistance programs, boost its resources for COVID-19 prevention and control, and safeguard productive sectors and workers from the economic downturn. We supported Mongolia to channel funding to its child money and food stamp programs. The Child Money Program reaches more than 1 million children. The Food Stamp Program benefits over 240,000 Mongolians, including close to 120,000 children. We delivered critical food supplies to around 162,000 poor households under lockdown in Manila, Philippines, with ADB staff contributing their own money via the ADB Staff Community Fund. We have also begun exploring how smart digital technologies can reduce virus transmission in centralized air conditioning systems in public buildings. COVID-19 chipped away at our region's progress. So beyond addressing pandemic concerns, we also work to ensure that progress in other development frontlines endure and flourish. This means co-financing multiple urban water projects that support sponge city development in the People's Republic of China, increasing women's participation in the restoration of Indonesia's forests, in the process building their skills and increasing their income, making secondary education a better experience for poor students in Nepal, especially girls, and improving cross-border procedures in Maldives via IT-based trade facilitation tools. Our financing partnerships supported 201 projects in 44 developing member countries. Focusing on public sector management, transport, energy, and more. Our response to the COVID-19 pandemic, agile, bold, and innovative, was made possible with the strength of our financing partnerships. By the end of 2020, a total of 52 financing partners for sovereign projects and numerous private sector partners for non-sovereign projects have helped us make a difference. Just as partnerships supported countries and communities combat the initial impact of the pandemic, they will be even more vital as countries plot a pathway to recovery. Together with our partners, we will work to ensure a green, inclusive, and resilient world beyond the COVID-19 pandemic.